Europe's dependence on Russian gas, Trump's promise to reduce oil prices, and the agreement between Ukraine and the United States on rare earth metals. We will discuss this and other topics with Büşra Zeynep Özdemir, an energy researcher at the SETA think tank. Ms. Özdemir, it's a big pleasure for me to have you in this program. And can we start talk about our questions? First questions will be about Europe's gas dependence on Russia. Is it possible to completely replace Russian gas in the European market? And if so, which countries are capable of doing this?
Yeah, thank you for having me for your program. First of all, the Russian gas supply to European Union was a huge amount before the Ukraine war, as you know. It was about 150 BCM in 2021, and it was dropped to almost 40 BCM in the 2023 and almost 10 BCM in 2024. So the Russian gas supply to EU is dropped to the enormous levels, but Europe still is struggling for replacing the Russian gas supplies because, as I said, this is a huge amount that Russia supplied to Europe, and there are no other alternative suppliers that can supply this amount of gas to Europe. For instance, Azerbaijan is already transferring its gas to Europe via TANAP and TAP via Turkey, and it's about 10 BCM, and they are planning to upgrade it to 30 BCM, but it takes maybe 10 or 15 years because Azerbaijan is not able to produce this amount of gas now, and they are planning to also transfer the Turkmen gas to Europe also, but there is not enough infrastructure to transfer Turkmenistan's gas to Europe, for instance. Another supplier is Egypt, as you know, and we have also Algeria, and we have also Israel, but Israel also using the Egypt's infrastructure, İTKÜ and Damietta LNG infrastructure to export its gas to Europe. But we are talking about little amounts of gas. No one supplier can replace the amount that Russia supplied to EU. We are also, we can also talk about Qatar. We can also talk about US and Australia. These are all the top three LNG exporters in the world. But Europe already importing gas from United States, and the level they are importing is increased to almost 55 to 60 BCM, but still not enough to replace the Russia's share. And Qatar already supplying most of its gas to Asian countries, the most of its gas to China and Japan, and most of the contracts that Qatar has taken by Asian countries, and the amount that Qatar can sell its gas from spot market, it's almost 10% of its exports. So this amount cannot enough to feed the European market.
Okay, I understand. I also want to talk to you about the danger of remnants of Nord Stream and Nord Stream 2. What do you think? What these remnants pose to Europe? Why are other pipelines being built there to eliminate dependence on Russia?
Yeah, because there are already existing pipelines from Russia to Europe. As you know, Nord Stream 1 is one of them. It's about 50 and 55 BCM, its capacity. And also there is a Nord Stream 2 that built but but have not commenced yet. It's also about 55 BCM capacity. Russia, Mr. Putin was planning to replace the amount that transferred from Russia via Ukraine to Europe by using Nord Stream pipelines. But if European countries in the Central and Eastern Europe cannot able to import the gas from Nord Stream pipelines, they have to continue their import from Ukraine, because when we are talking about European gas market, we are not talking about all of the European countries are not bind with the same infrastructure. For instance, Hungary cannot import gas from Spain, because there's not any infrastructure to enable these countries to do so. So these pipelines fed different countries in natural gas needs, and building natural gas pipelines is needing huge amount of finance. Europe has to first promise the alternative suppliers that if they, for instance, promise to import these gas for 20 or 30 years, then pipelines can be built. But because European Union's long-term contracts with Russia hurt the market, the European Union bureaucrats are not in favor of signing any long-term contracts with any of the alternative suppliers. So this prevents building any alternative or any new pipeline building projects.
Okay, I get it. I thank you for your answer. And there are now a lot of news about potential ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. And because of this, we have also we have information in media that Europe wants to buy more Russian gas again after all this crimes that committed by Russia. So my question is, if you can answer, why is Russian gas still so important for Europe?
Yeah, because as I said you before, that we are not talking about a single European gas market. The countries in European Union have different needs. For instance, the largest regasification capacity in Spain, but the country does not able to provide its imported gas to countries, for instance, in the Northern Europe. So in countries in the Northern or Central or Eastern Europe needs to pipeline gas imports from Russia. This is their, geographical, their geography made them made them to import gas from Russia. And Russia also providing, unfortunately, the cheapest gas to Europe. For instance, the Russian gas supply to Europe is also cheaper than the Turkey's imports from Russia, because Europe is the biggest market in Russian gas exports, and the biggest importer is Germany. And as you know, in the couple of days, there were elections in Germany, and the new government, especially the AfD party is in favor of importing or continuing importing gas from Russia, because they already experienced that industry in Germany is in need of cheap Russian gas to run in an efficient capacity, because there are in deindustrialization in Germany. They are already experiencing from the beginning of the COVID-19, but with the how can I say lack of the lack of logical policy choices that are made by government officials also made the German industry deindustrialized. So the countries in Europe are in need of Russian gas because of the European leaders' lack of, how can I say, I don't think that they did not foresee the war is coming, but they choose not to see the Russian threat to Ukraine. They choose not to see that Russia is threatening to invade Ukrainian territory, because we have an idiom in Turkey that it's like this: if a snake does not bite me, then it can live long. So the European Union acted like this. If Russia does not hurt the interests of the EU directly, they can, how can I say, disturb Ukrainian people or disturb Ukrainian territory.
Thank you for these answers, and I very like this Turkish experience. So now I want to talk with you about liquefied natural gas, LNG, from USA. For now, LNG from USA is more expensive than pipeline gas from Russia. But maybe there is some options exist to make this USA LNG cheaper, and then Europeans can buy more of it. Is it possible to make this cheaper?
Yeah, is it possible to have cheaper US gas in Europe? But in case European Union leaders accept to sign long-term gas contracts with US LNG companies, but they are not in favor of, as I said before, they are not in favor of signing long-term gas contracts because they see long-term contracts as a security, as a risk for their security of supply, and they are, how can I say, afraid of depending on a single supplier that can pose a risk to their market again. This is the case. This is not only the case for US. This is also a case for, how can I say, for Israel, for instance. Europe cannot promise to import gas from Israel for 10 to 20 years because they are not in favor of, how can I say, depending on these kind of suppliers that can threat their markets with their maybe their political ambitions or their different kind of ambitions. So yeah.
Okay, I understand. So as we start to talk about USA, we need to talk about Trump a little bit and about Trump's strategy on oil prices and Russia. So as according to Trump, previously he said that one of his levers of pressure on Russia will be lowering oil prices. And to achieve this, he claims he would negotiate with OPEC to drive prices down. Also, US companies would need to increase production. It's famous Trump's drill, baby, drill. So what do you think? Is this scenario realistic?
Yeah, because United States needs cheaper gas prices in its domestic market, because this is not only the case for United States. This is also for the case that they are already importing gas for all the countries that are already importing gas or oil or energy products from foreign suppliers. The United States, as long as need cheaper oil, they need other countries to pump more oil, because as we all know that the oil in international market is dependent on each other. For instance, the VTI is related to the benchmark of the Brent petroleum or Ural petrols that are pumped by or produced by, manufactured by Russia, is already binding to, affected by the price of VTI or Brent petrol prices. So if Trump needs to cheap oil prices in United States, he need OPEC countries and Russia to pump more oil to decrease the oil prices in the international market. But the hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling that made the shale revolution in the United States is a costly technology, and they need to fix oil prices. For instance, if oil prices are lower than, how can I say, maybe $60 or $50, the companies in the United States are not able to produce their oil, because the production then will be costly for them to produce. So they need fixed oil prices between maybe $70 per barrel or $80 per barrel. This is the irrelevant prices for them to pump, to continue to pump their oil.
Mm-hmm. And if we come back about this negotiated with OPEC, does the OPEC can agree in general to Trump deal to lower prices? Is it possible?
Yeah. As far as I follow the OPEC, they are not trusted, how can I say, partners. Because, for instance, from the beginning of the COVID-19, they are already agreeing on lowering their oil production to fix the oil prices in a relevant level they need, but they have not yet, how can I say, promised. They have not yet produced any amount that they have promised. For instance, Saudi Arabia always produce, they said that they plan to produce, because they need a larger share from the international market and they need more profit. For instance, they say, yeah, then from now on we will pump 10 billion barrels, 10 million barrels to international market, but they, for instance, they pump 11 barrels a day, so 11 million barrels a day. So I think any of the OPEC members are not reliable partners for Trump to rely on.
Mm-hmm. I understand. So it's very complicated situation. It's more complicated than Trump say. Mm-hmm. But according to all of this, what you said, does this situation with OPEC and more pump oil, does the situation have a real risk for Putin, or Putin just understand all of this and this is not scary him? What do you think?
When we're talking about OPEC countries, we need to keep in mind that all of the OPEC countries are their economy are most of run by their oil or gas industry. Their economies are mostly dependent on their profit from oil and gas sales. But for instance, the share in Russian revenues from oil and gas supply are lower than they have in OPEC countries. Russia also need more oil to sell to international market to make profit, to continue to profit. But OPEC countries are more dependent on their oil or gas sales to international market. And Saudi Arabia allow Russia to produce more oil than they promised, because they know that Western countries are applying price cap for Russian gas sales, for Russian oil supplies, for Russian oil imports. So Russia also allowed to produce more oil and sell more oil to countries in Asia, and countries in Asia, for instance, Indonesia, are re-exporting the oil that are importing from Russia to European countries, for instance. So Russia is allowed to pump more and sell more oil already.
Okay, I understand. I also want to talk a little bit with you about agreement between Ukraine and USA, which we have now about rare elements which we have. So, what do you think about this deal? Is it have some benefit for Ukraine, or it just benefit for USA and nothing for Ukraine?
As far as I know, the rare earth minerals in the Ukraine are not placed in the top 10 rare earth minerals reserves in the world. So when we are talking about Mr. Trump, we need to keep in mind that he might have another plan. Think about his plans on Gaza. He said, first, we will liberalize people in Gaza, in Palestine. We will, rebuild the country again, and then enable Palestinians to move again Gaza. But then he began to say that Gaza from now on is our own territory, and we will run the tourism industry in Palestine, in Gaza, for the benefit of the Israeli people. So when Trump began to say that we will benefit from the rare earth minerals in the Ukraine, and we will also work in favor of Ukrainians need to think twice, I think, because Trump can have another plan on Ukrainian territory. Unfortunately, I think.
Okay, yes, I understand that make deal with Trump, it's very complicated. But about these rare elements, now it's a lot of talk. For example, we have talks between Ukraine and USA. Also now Russia started to talk about them. Rare elements, and also Europe start also to talk about some deal between Ukraine and Europe in question about rare elements. So, is it really a very important now topic that everyone start to talk about this?
Yeah, because rare earth minerals are key for clean energy technologies that, all the countries in the world are need for coping with the climate change. And to develop their clean energy technologies, they need rare earth minerals, but most of the rare earth minerals reserves and manufacturing capacity is now controlled by China. It's about more than 90% that China is controlling the rare earth minerals and manufacturing capacity in the world. So United States and European Union needs to run their industries to not to depend on Chinese rare earth minerals, because they are afraid that China can use these rare earth mineral supplies as a leverage to, how can I say, make the United States they want. So Europe also afraid of Chinese imports, because European Union leaders are for long they are making illogical policies that at the expense of their own industries. For instance, Germany allowed Chinese companies to come to Germany to make the German solar panel manufacturers or German wind turbine manufacturers to bankrupt and to get the largest share in their market, because they need the clean energy technology capacity to develop more. But they do this at the expense of their own industries. So they followed their illogical policies, and they made Chinese companies and Chinese national companies benefit more. Now they are talking about we are at the wrong way. We need to develop our own reserves. We need to develop our own manufacturing capacity, blah, blah, blah. But the industry is already run by China. And I don't think that China can enable the other countries that have the technology they already have, and they have the biggest know-how capacity also in the world about rare earth minerals. Because also when we are talking about rare earth minerals, we are not only talking about clean energy technologies, we are also talking about artificial intelligence, we are also talking about defense industry, we are also talking about space industry, and so on. So rare earth minerals are significant for all of the key industries that all of the countries need to secure. But unfortunately, I think most of the countries are, how can I say, lost the train that China already has been running.
Okay, so if we make some little summarize that we can say maybe that Russia now have problems, yes, because they dependent from Russia cheap gas, they dependent from China deals with China company about rare earth elements. So maybe we have some answer why Russia. Why European Union so long make some this wrong decisions? Why they do this?
Yeah, because, for instance, when we're talking about Russia, Russian gas supplies to Europe are cheapest because Russia is the largest country that can that had the largest natural gas reserves in the world, and they can produce oil and gas at cheapest levels, so they can supply the oil and gas to European market at the cheapest prices. This is the one case, and the geography the Russia has near Europe enable these countries to import their oil and gas by pipelines securing their energy supplies. Because when we are talking about LNG or seaborne oil supplies, we are talking about lesser amounts, but when we are talking about pipelines, we are talking about huge amounts of supply. So their geography made them to dependent on Russian energy imports. And for instance, European countries importing gas from Algeria, But this is also the unlogical, the decisions made by European countries. For instance, for almost 20 years or more than 20 years, since the beginning of the 2000s, Europe is dedicated to build a single European gas market to make all the European Union countries' gas infrastructure to depend on each other, to same infrastructure, to share the same infrastructure, but they failed to build pipelines to bind all of the countries together. So the European Union countries are making unlogical choices. They have motivation to act, but they do not realize their plans and they are still at the paper, not in the action.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I also want to talk with you about another topic about energy infrastructure, about this Europe and the world in general. Have clear example of what Russia can do with energy sector of another country. Unfortunately, Ukraine has this example. Ukraine has lost 80% of its thermal power generation and 1/3 of its hydroelectric capacity. And Russia still continues attack, including with Iranian-made Shahed drones. So, should other countries now strengthen the protection of their energy infrastructure? Maybe they need to do some steps right now already when they see what happened in Ukraine with energy infrastructure.
Of course, as far as I remember, since the beginning of the 2010, NATO placed the energy infrastructure security as in their in their risk agenda. So they all agreed that we need to secure our energy infrastructure because it's about also our national security issue. But they are failed to take the relevant action to secure their infrastructure, and they are failed to provide the technology Russia the Ukraine need. As you know that Turkey provided unmanned drones to Ukraine to secure the infrastructure or to use as in their security issues. But most of the countries in NATO or most of the countries in Europe are, although they are already thinking about securing their infrastructure, they are failed to take the most of the relevant actions.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Maybe I also, for the first, yes, I also want to thank for Turkey drones. In the first time in the war between Ukraine and Russia, they very help us, especially Bayraktar. It's very helpful, so thank you. And also I want to ask about Turkey. Turkey is part of the NATO, but maybe you take your own some steps in this direction to make more safe your energy infrastructure. Is it some steps in this direction?
For instance, they are, as I said before, they are thinking about importing more gas from Azerbaijan via Turkey, via TANAP and TAP, which is Southern Gas Corridor. And they are also planning to import Turkmen gas via Turkey. And but they are also afraid that Turkey can use this energy supply as a leverage in their, how can I say, as a bargaining power in EU membership talks. But Turkey, when importing gas from Azerbaijan, how can I say, when enabling gas transfer from Azerbaijan to EU, Turkey also importing gas from Azerbaijan. Turkey also, as of 1st of March, Turkey will begin to import gas from Turkmenistan via Iran. And Turkey has always been saying that we can also, if Iran has the capacity to produce more, because they are not having at the time, but Turkey is willing to provide Iranian gas to Europe also. But Europe need to think that if they want secure gas supply, they need to have long-term contracts that may these suppliers to invest in their infrastructure to produce more. Okay. But they are not in favor of, as I said.
Mm-hmm. I hope. Ms. Özdemir, I want to finish our conversation with one last topic about Qatar and Turkey gas pipeline. So in one of your articles, you mentioned that after the fall of Assad regime, the construction of this pipeline, Qatar-Turkey, is back on the agenda. What can you say now? Is it possible to make this pipeline from Qatar to Turkey?
Yeah, it's a really contradictory issue because when we are talking about Qatar, as I said before, the gas supplies that Qatar is producing are already, how can I say, bought by Asian countries, for instance, China and Japan or Indonesia or any other countries in the developing Asia are agreed to buy gas from Qatar for 20 to 30 years. So Qatar need to have a secure market to produce more and to sell more its gas. If EU can promise to, for instance, because the building a pipeline like Qatar-Turkey pipeline needs huge investment because it's a very long pipeline. It will be a very long pipeline. Europe needs to at least promise to import 20 to 30 BCM gas imports from Qatar. And Turkey also needs to promise that we can also import maybe 10 or 15 BCM gas from Qatar. But we are already have long-term contracts with Russia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. Although, our contract with Iran will expire in 2026. But we are now talking about to use that pipeline to import Turkmen gas via Iran. So Qatar need to have a promise that the countries in Europe plus Turkey will import at least 30 BCM of gas yearly to enable the country to build that pipeline. If it's not the case, then it cannot be realized because it's a huge project to invest in.
Okay, I understand. But theoretically, if we imagine if that happen and European country promise that they take a lot of this gas. So when, if theoretically this all happen, then this Qatar gas can replace all cheap Russian gas which we have now in European market?
Unfortunately, I think not, because as I said at the beginning, Russia before the Ukraine war in 2021 supplied almost 150 BCM gas to European market, and Qatar cannot able to sell this amount of gas to Europe because they are producing not their production is not at this level, and they most of the gas they produce, as I said before, are optioned by countries in the Asia, from China, Japan, Indonesia, blah blah blah, developing Asian markets. So Qatar is not able to produce that amount of gas to supply all of these countries.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for your answer. Thank you for your time. And I remind that today we talk with Ms. Büşra Zeynep Özdemir, an energy researcher in SETA think tank. Thank you for your talk with me.